the time. This is 1010 Wins. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good morning. 64 degrees at 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday, September 11th. I'm Lee Harris. Here's what's happening.
Tuesday, September 11th, 2001 began like any other day. In the mid-Atlantic region, the weather was perfect. Clear blue skies went as far as the eye could see. Fall was approaching, and the weather reflected that as it was in the low 60s in the a.m. Of course, this seemingly perfect day would all change at 8:46 a.m. American Airlines Flight 11, which left Logan International Airport in Boston bound for Los Angeles International Airport in California, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. Flight 11 had taken off at around 8 a.m. and is believed to have been fully taken over by the 5 terrorists on board within a half hour of its departure. The terrorists diverted the flight path and flew towards Manhattan. Since the plane was headed to California, there was a lot of fuel on board, which would only worsen the damage at the North Tower. Very few in the plane knew what was going on, and the terrorists crashed the Boeing 767 into the North Tower a little over 45 minutes after it left Boston. All 87 innocent people on board Flight 11 were killed instantly. 17 minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 flew into the South Tower at 9:03 a.m. The plane, like Flight 11, took off from Boston en route to Los Angeles and was hijacked by the 5 terrorists on board in just over 30 minutes after takeoff. The terrorists again turned the plane around toward New York City. By now, Flight 11 hitting the North Tower was the big story, and there were many TV cameras and broadcasts filming the Twin Towers at this point. This meant that when Flight 175 hit the South Tower at 9:03 a.m., it was shown all over the world live. All 65 people aboard Flight 175 were killed on impact. With New York in shock, people thought there was no way it could get worse. Unfortunately, the hijackings and suicide missions were not done yet. American Airlines Flight 77 took off from Washington Dulles International Airport in Virginia at 8:20 a.m. bound for Los Angeles. Just minutes after Flight 11 hit the North Tower and Flight 175 was hijacked, Flight 77 was taken over by the terrorists just after 8:50 a.m. At this point, people knew that this was not just an attack on New York, but an attack on America, freedom, and democracy. Flight 77 changed course and was flown into the west wall of the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia at 9:37 a.m. All 64 people on board of the aircraft died instantly, as well as another 125 people on the ground. Taking off from Newark International Airport in New Jersey and headed to San Francisco, California, United Airlines Flight 93 was the last plane to be hijacked. Taking off at 8:42 a.m. from Newark, just 4 minutes before Flight 11 hit the North Tower, Flight 93 was hijacked at around 9:30 a.m. Flight 93 was meant to leave Newark at 8 a.m., but congestion at the airport delayed takeoff. This 42-minute delay would end up allowing passengers and crew members on board Flight 93 to get critical information that airplanes were being hijacked and flown into buildings. The plane turned around over Ohio as the 4 hijackers targeted Washington, D.C. At this time, it was nearing 10 a.m. and all other hijacked planes had reached their targets. Flight 11 and 175 had hit the North and South Tower of the World Trade Center respectively, and Flight 77 had recently flown into the Pentagon. As soon as passengers and crew were made aware of the other hijackings and crashes, they knew they had to do something. If they were going to die, they were going to go down fighting. Beginning at 9:57 a.m., passengers of Flight 93 fought back against the hijackers. The passengers would reach the cockpit, but it is not definitively known whether or not they entered. The hijacker pilot would carry out evasive maneuvers to thwart the revolt, but ultimately Flight 93 crashed into a field in Stony Creek Township, a small town in southwestern Pennsylvania. Flight 93 hit the ground at a speed of over 560 miles an hour and was in a near inverted nosedive. All 44 occupants died instantly. Flight 93 was the only plane of the 4 that did not reach their target, which is believed to either be the White House or the Capitol building. Even though the attacks were now concluded, the death and destruction was not yet over. At 9:59 a.m., just 4 minutes before Flight 93 crashed, the South Tower, of the World Trade Center, which was hit by Flight 175, collapsed. Just 29 minutes later, the North Tower, which was hit by Flight 11, collapsed at 10:28 a.m. At this point, the world was in shock. The attack and destruction was over. Now it was time for America to recover and retaliate. Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching.